In the small, segregated mill town of Alkaloo, South Carolina, the spring of 1944 began like any other for 14-year-old George Stinney Jr. On the afternoon of March 24th. George and his younger sister Aim were playing outside near the railroad tracks that divided the black and white sides of town. Two young white girls, 11-year-old Betty June Binnicker and 8-year-old Mary Emma Thames, approached them, asking if they knew where to find maypops, the wildflowers that grew in the area. Neither George nor Aim knew the answer. The girls continued on their way, and the siblings thought little more of the brief encounter. That evening, when the two girls failed to return home, a search party formed. George and his family joined the effort to help. During the search, George mentioned to another participant that he had seen the girls earlier that day. The next morning, the bodies of Betty June and Mary Emma were discovered in a shallow ditch. They had been brutally bludgeoned to death. Almost immediately, suspicion fell on George. He was arrested and charged with the murders, and later with rape as well. Police claimed he had confessed to the crimes, though no physical evidence ever linked him to the scene, and no written or recorded confession survived. In the racially charged atmosphere of the Jim Crow South, events moved with devastating speed. Just days after the arrest, George's father was fired from his job, and the entire Stinney family was forced to flee town amid threats of violence. A white mob even attempted to lynch the boy, but he had already been transferred to a jail in another town for safety. A month later, in April 1944, George stood trial. His family and other black residents were barred from entering the segregated courthouse. His court-appointed attorney, who had no experience in capital cases, mounted virtually no defense. He called no witnesses, requested no change of venue, asked for no additional preparation time, and conducted minimal cross-examination. The prosecution's case rested almost entirely on the sheriff's testimony about the alleged confession. An all-white jury deliberated for just 10 minutes before convicting George of rape and murder. The judge sentenced him to death the same day. Governor Olin Johnston refused clemency. Less than 3 months after the girls' deaths, on the morning of June 16, 1944, 14-year-old George Stinney Jr. was led into the execution chamber at the South Carolina State Penitentiary. At 5 feet 1 inch tall and weighing only 95 pounds, George was too small for the adult-sized electric chair. Guards struggled to strap him in. Newspapers later reported that he had to sit on a stack of books, possibly including a Bible he carried with him, to reach the electrodes properly. When the executioner flipped the switch and sent 2,400 volts surging through his body, the oversized mask slipped from his face, revealing wide, frightened eyes filled with tears. George Stinney became the youngest person executed in the United States in the 20th century. His family never wavered in their belief that he was innocent. His siblings insisted he had simply been in the wrong place at the wrong time and that someone else must have followed the girls and killed them. For 70 years, the conviction stood. Then, in 2004, efforts to clear George's name began in earnest. In October 2013, attorneys for the Stinney family petitioned the court to overturn the verdict. In January 2014, Sumter County Circuit Judge Carmen Mullen held a 2-day evidentiary hearing. George's sister Aim Ruffner testified once again, recounting the same events she had described since 1944. She remembered the day clearly, she said, partly because no white people came around to the black side of town. Somebody followed those girls and killed them, she told the court. On December 16, 2014, Judge Mullen formally vacated George Stinney's conviction. In her ruling, she found that he had been deprived of due process in nearly every aspect of the proceedings. His attorney had conducted no independent investigation, failed to challenge the confession's reliability, and provided what the judge described as the essence of being ineffective assistance of counsel. The confession itself, she noted, could not be considered knowing and voluntary given the immense power imbalance between a 14-year-old black boy and white law enforcement officers in a segregated town. "I can think of no greater injustice," Judge Mullen wrote, "than the violation of one's constitutional rights which has been proven to me in this case." When the news reached the family, George's sister Catherine Robinson threw her hands up and exclaimed, "Thank you, Jesus." After decades of waiting, someone had finally listened. Yet the relief was bittersweet. "I'm happy for this day because it's been such a long time coming," she said. "But then I cringe when I go back into that childhood and think of George back in the day. He had no one to help him. I get chills every time I think about it." George Stinney Jr. was gone, but 70 years later, the courts finally acknowledged that the system had failed him completely. His conviction was erased, and with it, a small measure of justice was restored to a story long marked by tragedy and haste. Please like, share and subscribe to my YouTube channel.